And I received a first-hand report from a local who had a Sasquatch encounter at this intersection. Hello and welcome to Squatchspot.com. I'm Darren Smith, and I hope that all of you out there are having a great weekend. Today I am conducting some field research along the waterways that are leading up to Goat Mountain. Goat Mountain, as I mentioned numerous times, is an ideal location to be searching for the Sasquatch, but not necessarily this time of year. As I mentioned, usually around late winter, the Sasquatch are making their move up towards those higher elevations, and I was hoping to get up to those higher elevations around my encounter site where I discovered that nest in March of 2020. However, there's a huge storm that is moving through that area, and I think it is going to be dropping a lot of snow in that area, which is good news for us because, as I mentioned, the Sasquatch tend to hang out just below the snow line. And once the snow melts off in that area, the Sasquatch seem to move up to those higher elevations in the summer months. And once they get up to those higher elevations, it's going to be very difficult for us to get to them because those locations are in a very remote backcountry location. So we really want to catch the Sasquatch before they make their seasonal migration up to those higher elevations. And the snow that is coming into that area that I mentioned is going to prolong their movement. So that window of opportunity that I mentioned on previous episodes is definitely getting a little larger, which is better for us because it gives us a better chance to get up in that area and to encounter them before they move on to those higher elevations. So right now I am focusing my efforts along the waterways that are leading up to Goat Mountain just to see if the Sasquatch are still at these lower elevations. And also these sandy banks along the waterways here make the perfect medium for which to find those footprint impressions that we're looking for. So I'm going to spend a lot of the day kind of investigating the waterways here, and then as the day moves on, I am going to move up to the Goat Mountain area to conduct some field research in that area and hopefully do some night maneuvers if the weather holds out for us. I am at the corner of Road 426 and Road 223, and Goat Mountain is just over to my left here. And I received a first-hand report from a local who had a Sasquatch encounter at this intersection. It was in the dead of night. The witness was driving northbound on Road 223, and as his vehicle moved through this intersection at Road 426, his high beams illuminated the field to his right, where the shack is located, and standing next to the shack, the witness spotted a very large hair-covered creature that was partially turned and was watching his vehicle speed by. Surprised at what he had seen, the witness quickly turned his vehicle around and headed back to the intersection. However, the creature was nowhere to be found, and unsettled by the experience, the witness did not remain in the area. The following day, the witness returned to the area, and while investigating the location near the shed, he found disturbances in the grass where the creature had been standing during the sighting, and he took note of a flattened grass trail that led into the nearby woods. At the time of the encounter, the shack was not as dilapidated and stood upright, and based on the height of the shed and witness, it was estimated the creature was well over 7 foot tall and weighed in excess of 500 pounds. Since I moved to this area, I have received over a dozen reports of Sasquatch being spotted crossing this little stretch of Road 426. I have spent a considerable amount of time in the field investigating Goat Mountain and the surrounding area, and I have had some very unusual happenings I absolutely believe were Sasquatch related. The most compelling was FLIR footage I captured one cold night in the dead of winter. It had snowed that night, and as I conducted nighttime surveillance, a tree came crashing down in very close proximity to me. I quickly grabbed the FLIR unit and began scanning the area I had scanned several times previously that evening, and I captured something very intriguing that many believe is a Sasquatch. When reviewing all the FLIR footage from that evening, the anchors used during the analysis were this log, tree stump, and various background trees. Comparing the footage, it is clear the environment had changed dramatically, and in the footage following the tree fall, there does appear a figure that was not there in the previous footage, a figure that strongly resembles a Sasquatch. The figure looks as if it was peering out from behind a tree. The size and mass are all consistent with proposed Sasquatch proportions. In enlarging the head area, there are some noticeable details that are hard to overlook. I returned to the area the following day to conduct an investigation, and I discovered impressions on the embankment and surrounding area that strongly concluded something very large had moved through the environment. However, I did not find a tree growing at the location the figure was standing, so the temperature variance noted on the FLIR was still a mystery, and taking into consideration the approximate location where the tree fall occurred, I could not understand how the creature could have moved quickly enough to get from where the tree fall had occurred to the location on the embankment in front of me. However, after I had posted the footage on YouTube, a number of researchers quickly contacted me and offered their explanation and interpretation of the footage that strongly supported the figure captured on the FLIR was a Sasquatch. They concluded the audio recording of the tree fall indicated the tree had likely been pushed over, and as the Sasquatch often forage in small groups, it is very likely there were more than one Sasquatch in the area. The one that had pushed over the tree hoping to scare me from the area, and the other one standing on the embankment in front of me. Based on previous observation, it does seem the Sasquatch are very well aware of human limitations of seeing in dark, and they will often get in very close proximity to us under the cover of night. Sasquatch often push over trees in an attempt to scare people from an area, and it is often noted Sasquatch move about in small groups, especially when foraging for food. I was conducting night surveillance in an area that has had an incredible amount of eyewitness encounters. I was in this area at that opportune time, both seasonally and hourly, and I was situated in a location that was blocking the Sasquatch from access to a substantial food source. And I had been at that location for several hours prior to the tree fall. Curiously, my FLIR battery went out almost immediately following the tree fall, and when I captured that footage. And without night vision, I did move out of the area shortly thereafter. Yes, I am absolutely in agreement. This FLIR footage does nothing to prove the existence of Sasquatch. However, based on the feedback I have received from other researchers, I do feel it does have worth and adds credibility to the phenomenon and is supportive of established theories. And it is this sort of encounter and tangible evidence that fuels my passion to continue my quest for answers. Although I am 100% that the Sasquatch are real and that they are roaming our forests, I have no clue what they are or what they are capable of. And although there are researchers out there who will paint these creatures as monsters based on my experiences and encounters with them, I do not share this opinion. In fact, it's very unlikely I will be the individual to bring in the evidence that will be required to substantiate this creature's existence. I am definitely not pro-kill, and unfortunately, with the advancements in costume technology and the photo manipulating software that is out there, I don't think photographic evidence is worth much these days, and I don't think audio evidence will be enough either. And unfortunately, I think what is going to be required is some significant photographic evidence coupled with DNA evidence, and I think that is going to be a very tough order to fill. It is apparent that that storm that was up at those higher elevations has now moved down to these lower elevations and is pulling into the Bass Lake Basin here. And unfortunately, at this point, it is important that I get back to my vehicle because, as you can probably hear, the wind has picked up dramatically and the temperature has dropped considerably, and I'm also experiencing some light precipitation. And the major concern is the wind. As I mentioned numerous times on previous episodes, the California Sierra Nevada mountains has had an incredible amount of devastation caused by the infamous bark beetle, which has killed tens of millions of trees along the California Sierras all the way up to the Oregon border. And unfortunately, in these high wind conditions, a lot of these trees come down. And I mentioned on a recent storm that we had, the mono winds were responsible for knocking down hundreds of trees just in my neighborhood. And so it is a very dangerous situation to be in. The environment is not safe with these dead trees and these high winds. And also with the precipitation and the lowered temperatures, there is a chance we may get snow in the area tonight. And I don't think that it will be a safe environment to be conducting our night maneuvers tonight. So unfortunately, we are going to have to postpone those maneuvers. But now, investigating the area here on Goat Mountain, the surrounding areas, and also the waterways leading up to Goat Mountain, I did not find any sort of physical evidence that led me to believe that the Sasquatch were in the area. And as I mentioned on previous episodes, they have been doing a lot of removal of that dead wood that was in this forest. So there's a lot of daytime activity happening here, a lot of chainsawing just to remove the dead wood. So I think that activity would maybe encourage the Sasquatch to maybe approach this area from a different vantage point. And also I mentioned that there were some recent fires in the area that have also caused some concern that maybe the Sasquatch would not be moving down into this area because of the burned out zones. So based on all of that, I don't think that we really need to be conducting a lot more investigation work here on Goat Mountain, because I do think the Sasquatch have moved up to those higher elevations. And with this storm currently pulling into the area, I don't think it's a good idea for us to continue with our investigation tonight. Browsing the internet, you can find an endless supply of proposed legitimate Sasquatch photographs. Unfortunately, pretty much all of them are either hoaxed or misidentified. Personally, I do believe the Patterson-Gimlin film footage from 1967 is legit. However, even after 50-plus years of scrutiny, it is still being harshly debated. With the advancements in costume technologies and photo and audio manipulating software, photographic and audio evidence is pretty much worthless. We need solid DNA, and as I mentioned, I am not pro-kill, and as a result, I will not likely be the individual to bring in that evidence. The hair samples I did find at the nest site I discovered in March 2020 look good. However, it is not likely I will relinquish this evidence for further testing. The Sasquatch are not a recognized species by mainstream science, and unless that changes, any DNA brought in will only be dismissed as contaminated or inconclusive. So how do we irrefutably prove the existence of Sasquatch? I'm not sure that we can. These creatures are elusive beyond belief. They live in very remote locations, and they seem to have extraordinary abilities. There are numerous reports of individuals attempting to shoot and kill one of these creatures, only to have their attempts foiled by malfunctioning equipment or mental disorientation. Based on my experiences, I do not believe these creatures are your run-of-the-mill animals. There is something truly unique about them, and as an explorer by nature, I am going to continue my efforts in exploring this incredible mystery, and hopefully come up with some answers. And until next time, I'm Darren Smith, and I'll see you here at squatchbot.com.